Okay. Thank you. Good evening, members of the public, council officers and councillors, and welcome to this evening's ordinary meeting. Thank you for your attendance. I'll now just ask the General Manager to make the announcements regarding the live streaming of this evening's meeting.
Thank you. The meeting is being live streamed and or recorded for on-demand viewing via Council's website. Attendance at the meeting is to be taken as consent by a person to their image and or voice being webcast. All speakers should refrain from making any defamatory comments or releasing personal information about another individual without their consent. Council accepts no liability for any damage that may result from defamatory comments made by persons attending meetings. All liability will rest with the individual who made the comments. The meeting must not be recorded by others without prior written consent of the Council in accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice. Councillors and staff are obligated to declare conflicts of interest as required under the Local Government Act and the Council's adopted Code of Conduct. Councillors are reminded of their oath of office whereby they have declared and affirmed that they will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the people of the Wentworth Shire and the Wentworth Shire Council, and that they will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in them under the Local Government Act or any other act to the best of their ability and judgment. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. I'd invite all to stand now for the acknowledgement of country and the prayer. I would like to pay my respect and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'll now lead the chamber in prayer. We are thankful for this day and pray for guidance to fulfil our duties. May we be challenged to give our best always. Amen. Please be seated. Okay, are there any apologies or applications for leave of absence? Councillor.
Just noting that the Mayor is on a leave of absence at the moment.
Thank you. The Mayor is indeed away. Councillor Beaumont.
Yes, Deputy Mayor Linklater, I did mention at the last meeting I would be requesting leave of absence for the August meeting. It may still be the case, but I may be able to dial in by Zoom. I check that out.
Okay, you'll be most welcome to do that if you're able, thank you. And yes, I should extend our best wishes to the Mayor, who is hoping his trip coincides with the UK's one day of summer. I might just take this opportunity to correct also the leave of absence approved for the Mayor. It indicates that he'll be returning on the 19th of August. He'll actually be back on the 11th. So I've just confirmed that today. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of interest? Councillor Nichols.
To Mr Mayor. 9.2, I have a non-pecuniary interest, and the reason being is an applicant is the Treasurers of Sporting Club, of which I am the President, so Wentworth Bowling Club, and it's non-pecuniary as we are unpaid volunteers. And on number 12.1, I have a pecuniary interest on the power of attorney for a person who will buy into an establishment that's comes up in the, and to be transparent, I may be seen to be as a voting an advantage for this person. So it's under one of the items in confidential.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, so recorded. Thank you. Could I seek a mover to confirm the minutes from our previous meeting, please? Councillor Haywood, Councillor Rodder. Open for discussion. Any corrections? All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 6.1, outstanding matters from previous meetings. Councillor, are you moving?
Yes, so moved.
Thank you. A seconder. Thank you, Councillor Nichols. Discussion? Yes, Councillor McAllister.
Just in relation to the response from the Transport for New South Wales in relation to the Bottle Bend turning lane. The assertion that there's no history of near misses or accidents is erroneous, and I believe that the committee has previously provided concerns, in particular, and despite the assertion that because there's a clear line of sight in both directions, no action was required. In actual fact, the previous roads, I can't remember the title, Road Safety Officer, thank you, had drawn up turning lanes, which the committee, when I was on the committee, were led to believe would be actioned at some stage, bearing in mind that when you're heading out of the Shire, you come down the hill, and when you're coming into the Shire, you come around a bend where the speed limit has just changed, so people are still doing 110-ish. Right in the middle of that clear line of sight is where people who have just had a really lovely overnight stay at a primitive campground, and they're nice and relaxed, and they've got their old caravan or whatever hooked up, sometimes grey nomads, at their leisure, turning out onto the highway just as trucks are about to overtake another truck down the hill, etc. And these incidents have been witnessed. So I would suggest that, that the committee, and I would hope that they continue pushing for turning lanes at that area, because I do not agree that it should take an accident, which would probably be a fatality and at the very least very nasty, before action is taken.
Thank you, Councillor. You paint a compelling picture. That no doubt will be communicated back to the Bottle Bend Reserve Committee, and I expect they will probably indicate a similar view to yourself. Any other issues?
A couple of other points that seem to not have made the outstanding action items report. So the staff and attraction retention strategy that was that's previously been discussed by myself to council, is it possible to put that onto the action items list, please? As I'd mentioned at the last meeting, at the pre-meeting briefing, was the water at the showgrounds, to confirm with the users there the reliability of that supply, please. Thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you. All in favour? That is carried. Item 7.1, the mayoral report. I'll move that and seek a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Crisp. As pointed out, this indicates that Mayor Elstone will be returning on the 19th of July. He will be... Sorry, August. It will be the 11th, so... Yes, sorry, 18th of August. So that's when he will be returning on the 11th. Any discussion? I'd like to indicate that I'm moving a mayoral minute, which... Oh, separate to the... Okay. All in favour of the report? Thank you. Next item, I'd like to move a mayoral minute dealing with motions for the Western Division Annual Conference 2023, which I will be attending next month on behalf of Mayor Elstone. The minute indicated on screen. Would you like me to read it out, or can everybody see it? Okay. That the Western Division Group of Councils writes to the Minister for the Environment, Minister for Planning and Public Spaces and the Minister for Regional and Western New South Wales, requesting that the Biodiversity Conservation Act 2016 be amended in such a manner as to allow the recommencement of development of housing and industry in regional New South Wales unhindered by the devastating impacts of the Act. The There has been a recent Henry review commissioned into the current Act. There's a number of responses to that from the various councils that will be represented at the conference next month, as well as other industry bodies, indicating just how overly restrictive this Act has been in prohibiting community development, housing and industrial, that's considered priority by local government areas. So that's the basis on which we would be seeking to participate in a motion at that conference. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Rodder. Any discussion? All in favour? That is carried. Councillor Nichols.
Mr Mayor, I attended the Showgrounds Group meeting last week, I think it was, and the main concerns being probably the fact that we've had a lot of water go in and caused a lot of mud problems, and the biggest problem was with the people who show dogs, and they're very concerned that their parade area has been damaged, we believe, with horses, and they've been disallowed by their higher authorities under an OH&S Act to show their dogs there or to run them. So it's something that we probably need to look at. Needs to be fenced off, and I think it needs grassing and so on and so forth. But there's a lot of divots, and that being the reason they can't run a dog in case someone trips in a hole and falls over. So
thank you, Councillor.
Just further to that, Mr Deputy Mayor, it was fed back through one of my associates who's also involved in the dogs in regards to the sinkage that's been that's over at the showgrounds, presumably from maybe the sewage works and others, and that the ground maybe needed some rectification to smooth out some of those holes. You would expect after the amount of rain that we've had that there would be some sinkage, so perhaps that could be looked at as well.
Thank you.
I did have a look at the site this afternoon, and there has been some loam levelling of some of those trenches that mentioned, so I don't say it's completely finished, but it's certainly being undertaken.
Thank you. That was from the 3-day dog show, which was prior to today, so thank you for that. While we're giving reports on committees external to council, for which we we have a representative. So the congratulations to the Wentworth Regional Tourism Group who have spearheaded the Why Not Winter in Wentworth campaign. So as part of the board of the Australian Inland Botanic Gardens, very pleased to say that Jane Edmondson, which is one of the events that's part of that campaign, has been sold out. So that's fabulous for the gardens and for the district as a whole to bring extra people to town and to have to partner with Wentworth Shire Council with events bookending that campaign, but a great initiative from Wentworth Regional Tourism. So congratulations to them. In regards to the Tourism and Officers report, the Country Music Festival, I've just got a quick question, if I may. Have we actually...
Well, we're dealing with councillor reports and committee reports, so perhaps we can hold questions off to item 10.
Okay.
Did you...
Is
Does
part
that...
of the report.
Okay. Yeah, please proceed.
Yeah. So did we actually provide any funding towards that event for the Twilight event for country music?
Sorry, point of order. We're still on item 8, is that correct? Reports from committees? Yes.
Sorry, item 8.
Yes, item 8, not item 9. I think Councillor Rodden's addressing item 9.
No. Are we in item 9?
No, we're not.
Right. Okay.
No. Councillor Nichols provided a report on section 8.
Right.
Sorry for the confusion.
Yes, so I just jumped ahead, sorry.
Okay, I think we'll move to Councillor Beaumont.
Yep,
You have
sorry.
a committee report?
Yes, Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, look, I too attended the Showgrounds Users Group Committee along with Councillor Nichols. I endorse her report. I also attended the Sporting Complex Users Group meeting on Tuesday evening, and I'm just a very quick report from that, mostly housekeeping issues in relation to some fascia work that needs some adjustment. The Bowls Club have an insurance claim being progressed at the moment in relation to the green that has been damaged through the fireworks activity. There's a leak through through a skylight into the bowling club. Cleaning of gutters around the whole complex are required apparently, and the tennis club are experiencing issues with the drains around the tennis courts and some infiltration of tree roots from a rather large gum tree to one of their adjacent tennis courts. That's pretty much it from that meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Nichols and Councillor Rodder.
Yes, sorry, there was one other committee I attended, and you were there also, the weekend smoke show. There were thousands of people that turned up to that. Generally very, very well received. They ran out of food. My only concern would be, and I think that probably it needs to go back to the committee, one entry is not sufficient because people were standing in lines for very, very long times, and by the time we left, they were not letting anybody else in from the that didn't have a ticket. But I think in general, it sort of proves the point that when we set our minds to it, we can do very, very good, have very, very good functions in Wentworth, and I think this is to be commended, and with one or two improvements, I think they could have 10,000 there rather than 5.
Indeed, Councillor. It was a very well subscribed event, and I think other than a couple of little logistical tweaks, it was fantastic, and the vendors, and including our local rowing club, did very well out of the day, which is fantastic. Councillor Rodder.
Thank you. So just in regards to reports from committees, I attended the Pooncarie Reserve Users Group meeting, and potentially this is perhaps a project idea for the for funding that previously discussed. There's one of the large issues that the users face at the reserve there is if they hold an event, they have to bring in external power because there's not sufficient power at the reserve. So the cost of bringing in temporary lighting and temporary power for each event is quite onerous on each of the individual users groups and events that are hosted there. Perhaps that's a great opportunity for council.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, we'll
Move that we accept those reports.
thank you. So moved. Seconder, all in favour? The seconder was Councillor Cooper. Carried. Thank you. Item 9, General Manager's Report. Item 9.1. Could I have a mover? Councillor McAllister and Councillor Crisp. Open for discussion. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.2, the Heritage and History Advisory Committee Expression of Interest. Thank you, Councillor. We'll just wait a moment. Councillor Crisp, you are moving.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to move that consideration of the expressions of interest be undertaken in the confidential section of the agenda.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Beaumont, all in favour? Thank you. That will be dealt with under confidential. Item 9.3, monthly finance report. Could I have a mover, please?
Order. Councillor Nichols can come back in.
Yes, I'll hold my horses. Thank you. Quick meeting's a good meeting. Sorry, councillor, I nearly jumped the gun. We're dealing with item 9.3, the monthly finance report. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor McAllister and Councillor Rodder. Open for discussion. All in favour?
I did have a question. I've just noticed it.
Yes,
If I
councillor.
may, sorry, everybody, on page 56, try and read this. I think it's loan 203 in the first box. The due date is the 28th of April 2023. Is that correct, or a typo? Am I reading it incorrectly?
I'll take that on notice. I think it could be a typo, but
Yeah,
I'll have a look at.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. So all in favour? That is carried. Thank you. Item 9.4, the monthly investment report for June. Could I have a mover? Councillor Cooper and Councillor Nichols. Open for discussion. All in favour? Thank you. Carried. Item 9.5, which is the T Corp loan acceptance. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Crisp and seconder Councillor Rodder. Open for discussion. All in favour? That is carried. Thank you. Item 9.6, a planning proposal application fee waiver requested for lots 506, 551, 719 and 719 DP 756961 in Dareton. And we have a recommendation in front of us that council resolve to waive the amendment fee by $2,628.63, reducing the lodgement fee payable to $5,257.26. Do I have a mover? Councillor Crisp, seconder, Councillor Cooper. Open for discussion. Councillor McAllister.
Yeah, just a question, if I may. I feel like I might have missed this. Do we know when this was approved, this decision?
The original D.
The original, yeah. Well, the original, hang on. Yeah.
I don't have the exact date, but I can find out for you. It would have been some time ago, though.
It's 12 months, do you think? Because I have no memory of this whatsoever.
Okay, because usually sometimes DAs for subdivisions may not come before council for resolution because it'll be done under delegated authority.
Sure.
So that's probably why you may not have seen it before. Yeah, but I can find out the date for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favour? That is carried. We'll call for a division. No, we won't. Yes, we will. Call for a division. Carried. Item 9.7, application for modification at 10. 9.7, application for modification at 10A Carboni Court. We have a recommendation in front of us to approve the modification application for addition of swimming pool subject to conditions. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Crisp, Councillor Rodder. And is there any discussion? Councillor Nichols.
Thank you. Again, I raise the fact that when we get this paperwork, I'm sorry, but even with glasses, I can't read some of it. Is the size of the swimming pool 52 by 10 metres? Because I can't read that bit of paper, I don't know, but that's what I'm thinking.
It would be 5.2 by 10.
Okay, thank you. And on page 83, condition 11, the stormwater management plan, has this been adhered to at this stage or is it early?
It's a bit too early, so that's a condition of consent that they have to provide it before they start to work.
Thank you. Councillor McAllister.
On page 87, it does talk about disposal of backwash and pool discharge. And I'm just wondering whether it refers to backwash not being disposed into the stormwater system. But I'm wondering whether we should also specify, or is there a need to specify that it should not be disposed of into the river? Is that a risk?
Not really, because most of the time when swimming pools are being installed, they're being carried out by professional swimming pools and plumbers and contractors, to do the right thing. And if it is done under council's certification process, then we'll ensure that the correct plumbing and drainage are being undertaken. And if a private certifier is doing it, then one would hope that they'd be doing the same thing.
No further discussion. I'll ask all in favour. Thank you. That is carried. I'll now call for a division. That is carried. Thank you. Item 9.8, I advise that this item will be withdrawn pending further investigation of how best to table this information for future meetings. Item 9.9, update on the Integrated Water Cycle Management Plan. The recommendation is that Council receive and note the report. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor McAllister, seconder Councillor Rodder. Open for discussion. Councillor Crisp.
Perhaps a comment that this has been a long-awaited report, and I think along with the residents in Baronga and Golgol, we all anxiously await the next steps.
Thank you. I concur with that. Whilst we're all aware that the timeframes are suboptimal compared with community expectation, what is really pleasing about this report is the commitment from council staff and New South Wales Public Works to keep a really sharp eye on this and keep it progressing, and also the fact that items of investment that will be required as a result of the issues paper identified can actually start to be scoped out concurrently with the preparation of the strategy document. So I think that's really positive to take forward, and I thank Director Gunn for providing this information for us. All in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Item 9.10, Project and Works Update for July 2023. Could I have a mover? Councillor Nichols, seconder. Councillor Cooper. Yes, Councillor.
Questions on page 100. River Road flood repairs, line marking be completed by the 14th, and also Boyle Creek Road flood repairs. Have both these been completed by the 14th?
The line marking was actually completed today. There was a slight delay with weather and the line marking contractor's arrival on site, but that all that work for both those locations was completed this afternoon.
They were when I came out, and I can report, Councillor, that they were very white and very straight. Any further discussion? Councillor Haywood.
Yeah, of just the amenities block. There doesn't seem to be very much going on there. The remaining subfloor works to be completed. It's been a while since we approved that.
What page number, sorry, Councillor?
103, amenities blocks.
Mm-hmm. Is there a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering how come it's taken so long to get these amenity blocks on the go. It's we've got a subfloor what is completed, but we've got walls and all the rest of it. Nothing's really moving there.
I think as of today, so there's quite a bit of, at the time of writing this report was probably a couple of weeks ago now, though. So there's been significant work done on the other work for the walls and the trusses, so there's significant effort on the amenities blocks taken place since this particular time.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Crisp.
To Director Gunn, the flooding has finally subsided in the Anna Branch area, and I see there's some indication here that some of those roads are being restored. Is that all the roads that are listed here that need to be restored, or is there additional works to be done?
I know there's additional works to be done, and yes, further assessments are currently taking place, and they'll be added to the works lists, and council will be advised as they come up.
Just on that point, if I may.
Yes, Councillor.
Is that assessment going to include the grids, the cattle grids? The access to and from often gets eroded where there's been lots of water as well.
Oh yeah, yes, it will include the grids.
Thank you. Councillor Beaumont.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Question just in relation to the Wentworth Rowing Club building. Can you expand a little bit more on the third dot point being draft concept plan of a second story option prepared and initial costings being compiled for further investigation? My understanding is that we did have some grant funding for the first proposal. I'm just wondering where funding might sit in relation to this, new draft concept plan.
Thank you.
Subsequent to the writing of the report, that we're going back to similar to the Jockey Club comment, where we'll have a transportable on ground to house all the facilities. So the rowing club has asked us to investigate the structural integrity of which the building was built to house an upper story, and subsequently through costing of the said option, it's been declined. So we'll be going back to a shell of the existing building to be used for housing of boats, and a transportable building which can be taken away in times of flood to be used for the office amenities and bar facilities. So it'll be in line with the budgeted amount based on this option.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask a further question? What is the proposed site then of this demountable building? So which side of the rowing club building will it sit?
I was going to ask if it was going to be in the same footprint.
I think from memory, but anyone can help me. I think it's on the boat ramp side.
Yes.
Because it's adjacent to where it replicates the facilities from within the building. So I think in terms of sewer and power and water and whatever else, it's adjoining those on the
northern end.
The northern end.
Yeah. So has the immediate neighbour been consulted in relation to that, because there is a new home being built very close to that site. There may be some visual impact.
Yeah, look, we'll have that assessment and that consultation during an application process. So it's more internally to have the project continue on. We've done the consultation with the rowing club and their representatives, and now it'll through the planning area, it'll go through a DA assessment process and notification.
Thank you. Something else, Councillor McAllister?
Thank you. I did want to ask about Arumpo Road. I can't see anything here, but I note that there was some significant works in our strategic plan. Is there nothing scheduled for? I thought there were works being done on Arumpo Road at the moment.
The previous construction works were completed, and the upcoming next lot of works is in the new year, is for the next 25 kilometre section to be undertaken. But the works previously undertaken, which was, I think it was 4.5 or 5 kilometre section, has been fully completed.
And a beautiful job. Is there any other discussion or questions? All in favour? Okay, thank you, that's carried. Item 10, notices of motions or questions with notice. Are there any questions? Councillor Beaumont. Microphone, please, councillor.
In line with good management practice, I'd like to ask that management provide councillors with a risk register report on a quarterly basis within the closed session of an ordinary meeting, so the councillors have the opportunity to view the risk register, what risks are identified, what risks might be emerging, and be able to have some input into that risk identification process.
Thank you. Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr Acting Mayor. We're still part of the Commonwealth. I'm wondering when we're going to have the portraits of the late Queen, Elizabeth II, taken down, and those of Charles III go up. We must have 20 to 30 of these throughout the Shire that need to be replaced.
Yes, we'll observe the constitutional arrangements. Thank you.
And on that point, has this one been assessed?
For?
Well, value, because the artist, I think when we did some research, was a notable one, and it's quite a lovely portrait of
Elizabeth
herself.
Yes, I quite agree. Thank you. We'll add that as an addendum to Councillor Nichols' question. Councillor Rodder.
Thank you, Mr Replacement Mayor. I'm not quite sure what to call you.
I'm surprised you have a question, but please continue.
So in relation to our advertising, so this brochure came in my letterbox, program and events, Wentworth Shire Libraries, which brought about a broader question in regards to our relationships with media outlets in the broader community. So previously at council I did ask about whether it was possible for example, the Mayor to do a talk with local community radio on in Mildura, and in conversation with other media outlets in town, whether there's an opportunity for the media budget of the council to be shared around a little bit more widely than just with the young people's radio, kind of platform. So that's something that I would like to have a little bit more information on, if we possibly could, and whether there's an opportunity for there to be a broader conversation around our media spend. Now back to the question that I didn't ask in whatever it was.
9.1.
So the financial assistance program, was there funding allocated to the Mildura Wentworth Country Music Festival under that program, or under the flip side of the other program, the tourism and promotions budget?
There was, I'd have to get the details for you, but there was the Bendigo Bank contributed $5,000, which we forwarded to the event organiser, and they have come good with the same amount of money for this year under their donations one. So, but the actual figure that was forwarded on to the event organiser, I'd have to take that on notice and get that to you.
Thank you.
It would have come out of the tourism and promotion bucket of money, not the financial assistance bucket of money.
Thank you. Anything further, councillor?
No, that's it, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Haywood. Councillor Crisp.
Thank you, Mr Acting Mayor. I've got several questions that are relating to the Dearton Kumiala centenary. First off, for Director Carlin, that in preparing for this event, the issue of nature strip maintenance and the need for a clean-up around or approaching the date, and the dates are the 25th to the 28th of April. Also, there's far less vacant blocks that are appearing to be unused following council's recent sale of land. However, I'm interested in what process would be required or what assistance council can do that if, as we get closer, an untidy block is identified, how we go about getting the grass slashed or whatever. There are some issues with some unused horticultural land, but that's for another body. And perhaps before I go on, would Director Carlin like to respond to those requests about process to make our town look a little tidier for our centenary?
I may defer the first part of it to Director Gunn, the nature strip maintenance and things like that, but the second part I can certainly answer with regard to the untidy blocks. Very quickly, the process for that is we identify where the blocks are, either by address or lot and DP. We send an officer out to have a look. We take some site photographs, and then we commence the process of what's called an informal letter that we send out to the owner of that block. And that gives them a period of a number of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, to respond. If they don't, then there's actions that we can take under the relevant legislation by way of notice of intention to serve an order, and that lasts for a period of time, usually about 30 to 60 days, depending on how generous we're feeling. And then after that, if they don't comply with that, then we issue the order, which then stands for another period of 30-odd days. And if they fail to comply with the order, then council can, at that point, enter the property and undertake the work or effect the work in the order and recoup the costs per the normal processes.
On that point, can I ask a question of Mr. Carlin?
Yes.
If that's okay.
Yes, that's fine. I'll go back to Councillor Crisp.
Just on the point of process, at what stage in that process is there a welfare check if it is that the owner of the property is, for whatever reason, unable to attend to things? Is that incorporated as part of the process?
It's certainly part of the process that we do to make sure that people are well enough or have the capacity to undertake those things. A lot of the times, well, not a lot of times, but some of the time, the properties can just be abandoned and no one will take responsibility for them. But any way, shape or form, we just still have to go through the process. If someone responds back to us and says that they don't have the finances or they don't have the health or whatever it may be, then we work with them rather than against them, and we try and work through the issues. Yep.
Thank you.
Director Gunn on nature strips, please.
Yes, failing the process that planning would go through with regards to the maintenance on those particular property frontages for the event you're talking about, council can undertake a one-off clean-up in preparation for the event.
Thank you. Did you have some follow-up, Councillor Crisp? And then I'll go to Councillor Nichols.
Right, thank you. This is perhaps by way of information, because there are a number of groups that are involved. There is the possibility of a number of official openings that can occur around the centenary event as well. The men's shed are planning to have their official opening. The Travellers' Rest as well, although they're talking about some sort of an event to officially open that. The Kumiala Golf Club Wetlands, a little group there, has noticed the signs are up and they'd like to do something. And of course, we hopefully have netball change rooms. So whether this occurs separately or all in at times, but there will be a bit happening in that space, subject to all the invitations and approvals that need to be done. My next question in this is probably to the General Manager, that Council have offered support for the event through road closures and in kind. Is an application required through the financial assistance program for this event to gain council support for it?
An official letter of request for assistance would be desired, so I can process it in accordance with that.
Thank you. I'll get it arranged.
Thank you. Have you concluded, Councillor Crisp? I'll go to Councillor Nichols and then we'll get back to Councillor Cooper and then Beaumont.
Thank you. In line with the requests that have been made, I believe council had a plan, either in the last council, it might have been the council before, that significant works were to be done. Streetscape works, where there's to be outdoor furniture and those sorts of things. Would be nice to think that perhaps some of those would be done before next year when they want to use them. So is that a possibility?
There's a lesser amount allocated, so the funding, the larger, bigger picture, streetscaping, alternate parking methods, street furniture and what else was unsuccessful in the grant funding. So I believe the agreed position with the organisers at this point in time is replacement of toilet block and upgrade to the street in terms of, and we aim to achieve that before the deadline of 25 April next year.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper.
Well, mine was going to be directed at Director Gunn, but I think I answered my own question today. Had a concern from a few graziers along the Anna Branch Mail Road, just in the condition of the road. So they suggested I take a drive, so I did, to which, to my joy, I ran into a grader. So they've started today, so I think they'll be very happy. But probably some of the parts, especially from Tara Downs to Wilton, is going to need some gravel because it's just clay. But it's good to see the grader out. It's lovely and doing a good job. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Beaumont. Wow. Oh, Councillor McAllister.
It's been brought to my attention, unfortunately, some time ago, but with events, I'm bringing it now. In April of this year, ratepayer paid $5,839.90 for inline filters because of the poor water quality on the Darling River, noting that we have some 250,000 odd head of stock along that river in particular, and that council, for some reason, is the provider of water. The question was put whether council can help in some way with the purchase of the filter, which I don't think is council's responsibility, but what I do think is that, as I always have, the quality of the water, particularly along the Darling River, lies squarely at the feet of the New South Wales Government. So I would suggest that council write to the Water Minister and CC the Premier, who has previously been a Water Minister and has visited out this way before, reminding them that despite recent floods statewide, the water quality still threatens the 250,000 odd head of stock, staff, residents, communities, including First Nations, cultural activities across the far west. And if local governments to continue to provide safe drinkable water to its ratepayers, New South Wales Government must act more quickly to ensure water quality and equity across the state. And there are three obvious ways that such change can be made. The first would be, as previously noted, to establish numeric long-term average annual extraction limits in each valley and embed these in the water resource plans, noting that I think 7 or 9 water resource plans previously handed up to the MDBA have been handed back to the New South Wales Government for correction, and also the water sharing plans, some of which are still outstanding. Number 2 would be to suspend existing floodplain harvesting licences which were issued by the previous governments in at least 2 valleys to protect the source in line with the Commonwealth Water Act. Number 3, to prioritise end-of-system flows and quality, and by installing extra meters, including water quality meters, which is something that this council's been arguing for a long time. Would anybody like to second my motion? Thank you, Joe.
We have a motion and we have a seconder. So we'll just get the wording.
Perhaps while we're waiting, if I may, Acting Mayor, just ask whether we've received a letter back from the Water Minister from our previous correspondence regarding the Natural Resources Commissioner's report on the LTAAELs.
Not to my recollection, councillor. I'll check, but I don't believe so. Would have been brought to my attention, which would have been brought to your attention because you instigated it. So
the letter was sent.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
So just while we're waiting for the wording, have I skipped any steps in terms of bringing that motion into being considered as business, or? Okay, we'll just wait for the wording and.
If I may, Mr Acting Mayor, just while Gail's typing that up, so I've just seen a note that I skipped over. So one of the other items that was mentioned at the Pooncarie user group was in regards to council. Evidently there's been some conversation about putting lockable gas cylinder cages there because there's been issues. I think the gas cylinders were stolen. Do you know anything about that, Director Gunn? Yeah.
I have since discussed that issue. The cage actually is there, and we will be providing a lock for that. So, yes, I have since discussed that issue with the building maintenance team leader, and it'll be actioned shortly.
Fabulous, thank you.
Just enjoy your council-issued refreshments while we wait, councillors. There's no pressure, Gail.
Thanks, Gail.
To the members of the public watching the live stream, they're finding this the most interesting part of the meeting thus far.
So further to the Why Not Winter in Wentworth and on the Pooncarie theme, the Catch a Carp competition in Pooncarie was very well attended and very much appreciated, so which is fabulous for that community. During a recent famille with the Wentworth Regional Tourism, we did a tour of Pooncarie, and they've got a very proactive group up there that are working hard towards making things better for that community. So congratulations to them on that event.
Here, here. Was there a winner?
There was a number of winners, I believe.
Very good.
So, Mr Acting Mayor, I'd like to move that that motion is admitted into business. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Rodder. This motion is open for discussion.
I've already had my preamble, so unless anyone's got questions, and I just want to make sure people understand it's not just about stock. There's also staff that work at those stations as well. And when you see your animals refusing to drink, especially after the extended period of drought and lack of water in the river that we've had, it can re-traumatise as well as, create future concern for continuing business. And I think our businesses have been affected more, I'm going to say, than any others in the state over a longer period of time. So it may be that action is happening, but we're not seeing it out here, and that's why I'm calling for further correspondence. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to clarify, your previous attached question regarding a response to previous correspondence, this doesn't double up that initial correspondence. This is in addition to.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we do have the motion. So if there's no further discussion, I'll ask for those in favour of the motion. Oh, I thought we've already admitted it to business. Oh, sorry. Okay, admitting it to business. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. If there's...
The motion as well.
Thank you, councillor. Is there a seconder to the motion moved? Councillor Rodder. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? With no further discussion, I'll ask for those in favour of the motion. There are none against. That is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you for your patience.
Hey. Councillor Beaumont,
Yes, Mr.
my
Deputy
apologies.
Mayor, just in light of that recent transaction, do I need to move my query as a notice of motion, or is management happy to progress with the supply of the enterprise risk management report?
I'll...
No need for a motion? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That will be duly noted and acted upon. You have a further question, councillor?
Yes, please, if you don't mind, Mr Acting Mayor.
I do, but please continue.
In regards to the high river that's on its way, do we have any expectation of being flooded again? We've received the notice that everybody has with regards to the Mildura Weir and the various minor and moderate flood risks further upstream, but I haven't seen any advice indicating. I think the Bureau is still very confident that inflows are going to be below average heading into spring, but I'll throw to anybody who might have a more informed commentary on that question.
No, I don't have any information, so...
Councillor?
As my understanding, there's somewhere between 40 and 50,000 megs in the system. Mildura Weir comes out if you're anticipating 42. So that would, the impact on Wentworth will be minor, and Mildura above the weir will be minor. Apex Park's probably going to get another dress up, but I expect that's a long way from the 220 odd thousand megs that we had last year. So I think it's just going to be a spring flush through our system down here at this stage. And so that's my take on it as a river watcher.
Thank you, and I'll just note for the record that I in fact do appreciate your question, Councillor. Councillor Nichols?
Yes, Mr Acting Mayor, my question is probably through to the gentleman with the Wellingtons. Will that figure in any way have problems with our bridge and our Junction Island? Because I can never, that bridge is, I'm going to die before that happens.
Good question. I might refer to to Director Gunn on that, I don't think the height will be that much of an issue, but I was there only the other day and there's a fair bit of water runs through that creek. So it just depends on the method to which the piles will be applied, but I'll leave the civil engineer to talk about that.
Yeah, it could have a minor impact, but subject to the report in the confidential section, which will lead on into the discussion on the methodology of construction. So I believe it'll be minimal, and there's definitely a workaround for that.
Okay, thank you everybody for your questions. We'll now move to item 11, confidential business. Could I invite Councillor McAllister to move us into closed session, please?
Thank you. I'd like to move that council move into closed business and that members of the press and gallery be excluded, that the video recording be ceased. And the reasons for that is that under section 10A2 of the Local Government Act, 3 of these items, I think, relate to C, which is commercial in confidence. One of them relates to D3, which involves trade secrets that would not be in the public interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconder, Councillor Crisp, all in favour? Thank you very much. If I could ask those in the gallery to please step outside. you. Thank you. I'd now like to invite the General Manager to report back to the open session of Council on the outcomes of the closed business.
Thank you very much. In relation to our closed session of council business this evening, in relation to item 12.1, council considered and deliberated over the disposal of this current building, the council chambers and library, and it was endorsed that council dispose of the council chambers and library building being lot 2 DP 1227871 by way of private sale to the adjoining landowners based on the Heron Todd and White valuation of $525,000, with the adjoining landowners being Murray House Hostel. And further, the council authorised the mayor and I as the general manager to attach the common seal of council to the contract of sale. In relation to the next item of business being the Heritage and History Advisory Committee expression of interest, council resolved that the committee consists of 5 community members, 2 council representatives with an alternate, and the council officers of the General Manager and the Director of Health and Planning, and that further we notify all applicants in relation to the decision. In relation to 12.2, council considered the disposal and supply of new vehicle, and it was resolved that council approves the acceptance of a tender from Davison Ford for the supply of the Ford Everest Platinum that meets the specification at the price of $76,971.92, including GST, and accept the trade price of $67,000, including GST, for the council-owned 2019 Toyota Prado, registration WSC 404, with a total changeover price of $9,971.92. In relation to item 12.3, plant replacement approval for tenders for the replacement of plant multiple vehicles, the council accepts the tender from Auto Synergy for the supply of an Isuzu D-Max SX Crew Cab Ute for a sum of $57,096.49 and accept the trade price of $27,000 for council-owned 2018 Ford Ranger, registration WSC 427. That council accepts the tender from Davison Ford for the supply of a Ford Ranger XL utility for the sum of $56,965.50, including GST, and accept the trade price of $15,000, including GST, for council-owned 2018 Holden Ute, registration WSC 407. That council accepts the tender from Davison Ford for the supply of a Ford Ranger XL utility for the sum of $84,716.42, including GST, and accept the trade price of $22,000, including GST, for council-owned vehicle 2018 Ford Ranger, registration WSC 445. In relation to the next one being that council accepts the tender from Davison Ford for the supply of Ford Ranger XL utility for the sum of $84,716.42 and accept the trade price of $22,000, including GST, for the council-owned 2018 Ford Ranger, registration WSC 408. The council accepts the tender from Davison Ford for the supply of another Ford Ranger XL utility for the sum of $84,716.42 and accept the trade price of $32,000, including GST, for council-owned 2018 Ford Ranger WSC 421. That council accepts the tender price from Auto Synergy for the supply of an Isuzu D-Max SX Crew Cab 4x4 utility for the sum of $69,736.21, including GST, and accept the trade price of $20,000, including GST, for council-owned 2019 Holden Colorado, registration WSC 448. Excuse me. Did council accept the tender from Auto Synergy for the supply of 3 by Isuzu SX 4x4 utilities for the sum of $171,289.47, including GST? Late item in relation to Junction Island Bridge. It was resolved that council accept, in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government General Regulation 2021, Section 178(1), accept the tender from Taleo Design Proprietary Limited for the demolition and installation of Junction Island Bridge in accordance with the Board Pier alternative and subsequently authorise the Mayor and myself, the General Manager, to sign the contract documentation and affix the seal for the recommended contractor to carry out the works specified for $253,482.73, excluding GST. And that concludes the business conducted in the closed session of Council this evening.
Thank you, General Manager. You will need a drink after that effort. And it being 32 minutes past 8, we will conclude the meeting, and I advise councillors that our next ordinary meeting is on the 16th of August. Thank you very much for your attendance. And advise also, in addition to that, an extraordinary meeting of council next Wednesday evening, being the 26th of July, ahead of our usual briefing period, at 5 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.